Now, a good pair of leather boots is an important piece of kit for anybody who spends lots of time outdoors, but it can be quite an investment. In this video, I'll teach you how to clean and care for them so they last as long as possible and give you many years of use. Now, the first thing is you should never leave your boots covered in lots of mud. And the reason for that is mud is acidic and that will erode the leather over time. So it's important to kind of rinse that off as soon as possible. Now, if you're a dog walker and you're walking every day, sometimes several times a day, it's just not practical to do a full clean every time. So what I recommend is just rinsing your boots off under an outside tap to get the worst of the mud off, and that will be greatly beneficial to the longevity of your boots. Now, a top tip is if you keep your boots waxed nicely, then any mud and dirt should just repel off the surface anyway, and it'll be a really easy job to keep them rinsed off. Now, lots of people think about waterproofing their boots, and while that's important, it's really important to actually clean them first. And the reason for that is, if you don't, the sort of bits of dirt and sand particles and other muck that finds its way into the creases of your leather will mix with the wax you use to waterproof them, and that will form an abrasive paste. What that will do is abrade the surface of your leather over time and accelerate the wear and tear. So it's really important that you clean them before you waterproof them. Now, ideally, in good weather, you should be looking to waterproof your boots probably about every 2 weeks. And in bad weather, I would do them every week just to make sure that they're in tip-top condition. Remove the laces so you can get access to the tongue, nooks and crannies of the boot.
Next thing you do is just fill the sink up with some water and then add a little bit of fairy liquid or other dishwasher soap so that you can use that to clean the leather with.
So take the laces that you've just taken off and you can either bung these in the washing machine or stick them straight in the bowl before you wash the boots and give them a good rinse. What this does is that this actually removes all of the kind of sand and the other abrasives which will kind of wear the laces over time and help the laces last a little bit longer. So give them a good clean. Usually I give them a couple of minutes agitation, and then just take them out best I can, give them a good squeeze to get rid of most of the moisture, and then you can stick those in the radiator or stick them somewhere to dry. Okay, the next step is to take your boot and just place it sole down in the water. Keep hold of this boot because if I let it go it will sort of slip to one side, then it could potentially tip in and fill up with water, which wouldn't be good. So just keep that in there and trying to keep the boot nice and low so you don't get lots of spray. Just take the brush and brush in and I kind of work through with the creases in the direction of the creases to get all the sand out. And it's important you get any sort of sand and dirt out because what will happen if you leave that in, that will form this abrasive paste. So it's not good. So make sure you get all the dirt out here. So there's two ways you can use the toothbrush. You can use the non-brush end, then you can just dig into all of those kind of cleats and remove the worst bits of the mud. Once you've got a little bit left like this, you can just take the brush and then work it with the cleats to remove. So once you finish cleaning your boot, you just need to rinse off any soap residue because you don't want that left on there either because that could also cause problems for the leather. So just get your tap going, try and just get a little trickle so you're not wasting lots of water, and then run your boots under and give it a really good rinse. You can use the brush if you've rinsed this off already to help just removing any residue. And just give these a good rinse to get that soap off. And the next step is just to take a paper towel and just get the worst of the water off. You just want to give it a quick wipe over to get any excess water. With some of the cleaning solutions or the waxing solutions we'll use later, they actually recommend that your boot is a little bit damp anyway. So you don't need to be perfectly dry, you just want to kind of get the worst off. Give it a bit of a blot. Okay, and that's great, you just repeat that with the boot. Now, one of the things you should never do is actually put your boots under a radiator or next to a fire to dry, because it'll dry too quickly and crack the leather. If your boots are excessively wet, you just need to take some old paper, or some old newspaper or any sort of paper, scrunch it up and stick it inside the boot, and just keep packing the paper inside. What that will do is that will draw the water out into the paper. Now, you've probably heard people talking about nourishing leather. Now, what does that actually mean? Well, leather is basically just skin, and it has sort of oils and lubricants inside which lubricate the fibres as they bend and flex together. Now, over time, those oils deplete and the leather starts to harden. So what you're doing by nourishing the leather is replacing some of those oils, and then when the leather then bends and flex, those fibres are lubricated and then they should last longer before the wear and tear becomes evident. Now, you can only delay this process, you can't stop it happening forever, but you can get many years more use out of the boots by actually making sure that the leather is properly lubricated. Now, all leather is water resistant, while some is more water resistant than others. But all of them will benefit from some kind of wax or waterproofing agent to kind of keep that water out for longer. Different manufacturers recommend different sort of products to waterproof their boots, and it's all down to the type of leather that they use. Now, in my experience, it actually does work better if you use the manufacturer's recommendation. Now, most of my boots are actually made from amphibio leather, which is a very water resistant leather. And most manufacturers who use this type of leather recommend a product called Leadergris. And this is actually a really good product. It's a mixture of oil and wax. The oil sort of penetrates deep into the leather to kind of nourish it, and then the wax stays on or near the surface to actually keep that leather nice and water resistant. Now, Leadergris can be used on a wide range of leathers, and if your manufacturer doesn't make a recommendation otherwise, I would use that product because I think it's brilliant. I've used it for the last 10 years and I highly recommend it. When you're applying a product to your boot, just take a small amount on your brush and work it into the leather. Generally, a small amount usually goes a long way. Try and pay particular attention to the folds and creases in your leather because that's kind of the area where it needs it the most. Also look at the seams and make sure you've got a good coating on the seams because they can be a weak point for water ingress. Now, if you're not sure whether you put enough on or not, one of the things you can do is after you've brushed it on, just take a finger and then wipe it like that. And if you see a mark appear, that means you've definitely got enough on. Once you've finished applying that product to the boot, you just want to leave it overnight for the wax to cure. And if you're going to put your boots into storage, I always recommend giving them a good clean and a treatment before you put them in. That way you top up all the oils before they go in, and hopefully the leather won't harden if they're in storage for a prolonged time. If you've taken your boots out of storage, or perhaps you bought an ex-army surplus pair which may have been in the storeroom for many years, one thing you might want to consider is using a product which is especially designed to sort of nourish the leather. So something like Neats for Oil can be used, or alternatively, my favourite is Leadergris Extreme. This just has a higher oil to wax ratio, so it's really good at nourishing that leather and making it nice and supple, which one will actually help break the boot in if it's new, but also stop the excessive wear and tear by lubricating that leather. And if possible, I'd try and put that on at least 24 hours before you're going to wear the boot to give the oil a chance to penetrate and do its thing. And that's it, job done. If you look after your boots, they'll last you for many years. And you might find that when the sole wears out, it's possible to just replace the sole if the leather uppers have been looked after. And that's good for a couple of reasons. The first one is you get a nice comfy boot straight away. And the second reason is if you're a tight northerner like me, you save a lot of money too.